The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike three. Wrap this one up in green and white.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of the RailCats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savage, and today we will be discussing the post-game of the loss to the Lake Country DockHounds. The first time that the RailCats have lost at Wisconsin Park here. They previously met, I think the third series in, and they swept the series there. But it's kind of the same story that, there was a little bit of life with the offense there in the middle innings. But outside of that, it was kind of a mistake here and there, and pitching just didn't do its job. Once again, yet again, they've given up 14 runs in the past, 3 games. You can even say the past 4 games, besides the Cleburne where they lost 3-2. 12-10, 13-2, 14 or 13-4. Now it's 5-14. There's just something not going right with this team right now. I don't know what needs to be said in the locker room, what needs to be taught with the pitching staff, something going on. The time's dwindling away for the RailCats here. Lake Country, if RailCats don't do well against Lake Country may just jump them, and RailCats may be in last place. That's the reality that we're looking at now. I'm throwing, I know it's bad to say, but I'm throwing the playoff picture out the window at this point. I don't want this team to be last, right? We don't want the Lake Country DockHounds this is an inaugural season. This is their first year. You don't want to be jumped by a first year team. It just shouldn't happen. And with all the things that have, the progress, the whole RailCats process through this entire year has been kind of wild. I was sitting there really thinking about watching this game, and I knew, I've said at the beginning of the year, I said that the RailCats pitching is only going to get them so far. And it only got them so far. And now this is the time where the offense really need to be stepping up and helping out. And even some kind of defense as well. And, realistically, the weak spots of the RailCats at the beginning of the year, I would realistically say was catching and shortstop. Realistically. Lingual is a good fielder. He made a heck of a play today, almost turned 2 on a beautiful diving catch. But he's had his fair share of errors, and Michael Cruz wasn't the best catcher behind the plate as a defensive catcher. And looking at it to where it's now, the outfield really didn't get much better. The only one that's halfway decent, and I shouldn't halfway decent, is a good fielder and has good speed is Mariaga. But then outside of that, I don't know what, it's everything's kind of changed because everyone's so concerned about hitting home runs. And yes, the RailCats in yesterday's game finally beat a record from 2009 that was held since 2009, hitting 71 home runs, in a season. And to think how crazy that is, because that 2009 team was the last team to make the Northern League championship. That was 5 straight years of them making the Northern League championship, right? And just to sit there and think about, man, that's where the RailCats used to be. That was their prime right there. And I want to see them get back to that. But there's a lot of pieces that have to be in place in this. And I know it's kind of weird to say because, you really want the team to be successful and continue to be successful. And they have interchanged so many players, relief pitching, fielders, fan favorites, people that never really got a chance. And then, on the flip side, there's people that have gotten chances and you're like, why are they still, so I don't know what the the system is, who, what, why, where, when, what decisions are being made. I understand that Lamar Rogers probably wants more of a power hitting team, and that they're getting that from majority-ish, a hand select few of players. When you think about it, I really think Abbott and Walraven recently are in that kind of realm. I know Cruz was starting to get a little bit better before he ultimately went back home. You could put Mariaga in that. I really haven't seen much. Maybe Nova. You put Nova in that one as well. Castillo has been, like I said, I think Castillo would be a solid DH for the RailCats, and I think that they need that. I think to still utilize Walraven in the lineup, or maybe you can try back Nova, playing him back in right field or what. Because the issue with Nova for me defensively, I just don't think he has the arm for third base. Some of the throws that it just doesn't seem, it's been a hit or miss all year. I mean, the RailCats defensively haven't really been sound, I would say, in the last couple years anyways. Just looking through the stats and everything, I don't think they have a sound defensive, maybe Woodworth is a staple of that. I know he's a little bit shaky at the beginning of the year, but I think he might be a staple of a solid second baseman. Lingua has shown spurts of greatness and then times of very hard weakness. There was, I think it was, I think I have it in the second. Carranza hit a single, and he tried to barehand. I know the turf is completely different. The turf is a very difficult field to play because the ball bounces so much higher and harder that it's really hard to judge an actual true ball just because of the bounce you get off the field. But he tried to barehand it. He was off the side. Just some things, it's either his timing doesn't line up, or he's not making the play that should be played. I'm not discrediting him for his, he is an all-star. I think his batting and his base stealing got him to that point. And, that's the other thing. We're not seeing much of that. What we were seeing, we were seeing the small ball play from the RailCats, and everything's kind of adjusted, and they've seemed to kind of gone away from that. And I understand that. You can get away from that stuff, but, you can't take that away from the players that are successful. Mariaga is a very successful base stealer. Lingua is a very successful base stealer. Like, those are your top two, I would say, that are going to steal base. I know Woodworth's up there as well. But, you start taking that away, you start taking those bases. When you broke that record, what was it, 17 stolen bases in one game? That's a lot of runs that add up. And I just think that's not really there anymore. It's more of a less that are just trying to hit home runs. They're trying to get extra base hits, and they're putting themselves in the slumps. So let's go ahead and get into this game. RailCats went 1, 2, 3, 3 up, 3 down, in the first 2 innings. But then when we look over here at the DockHounds, Yo grounded out to second, and then Contreras popped out to third, and then Bennett came in and hit a double, and then Noriega came in and a 2-run shot. So that put the DockHounds up by 2. They would also score here in the second inning, starting out with Jimenez rounding out to Nova, Carranza getting a single, and that was, I think, off that Lingua kind of play there that didn't really happen with its Dystra. He walked, stole a base. Schaefer hit a single, which brought in Carranza. I think that was a double steal, something going on there. I think it was a double steal that happened with Carranza and Dystra that I missed, or that was later. I missed somewhere around there, but anyways, Schaefer drove in Dystra, and then Yo lined out to Woodworth. I didn't really see it. I think it was a good play with Woodworth. I think Woodworth playing up a little bit. Then Contreras grounded out to first base. said Railcats didn't score until the fifth inning, so I won't really talk about the Railcats when I get to the fifth inning. Here in the fourth inning, this is kind of where the wheels on the bus kind of went falling off, and I want this was a good, I think a good learning lesson. I think this is the point where, Tom Thornton needs to go to Chris Irwin and say, hey, this is what you need to have done in this situation, because I even saw, I don't know if you guys saw it as well, and especially keeping a scorebook. So let's set the playing field here real quick. So Jimenez gets on. Carranza grounds out to Woodworth. Well, hits the ball to Woodworth. They try to turn a double play, but that doesn't work out. And it wasn't to Woodworth. It was actually to Abbott. He threw to second. It was a fielder choice. Carranza got on, and then Dystra got a hit by pitch, and then Schaefer walked, and then came up Yo. And you just kind of felt it at this moment that Yo was about to do something. Especially listening to the DockHounds broadcast. Sam, I can't think of his last name, but he was talking about this is the spot that he wants to be in. This is the guy you want up. And the reason I want to bring this up, because when you look at Yo, he had 2 hard hit balls prior. All right, the ground ball was a hard shot and a line shot, right, all to the right side. And he's a right-handed batter, so he was pushing everything to the right side of the field, being a good leadoff hitter. I mean, you have to be able to use all sorts of the field, and most of the time, being a leadoff hitter, you're going to take the ball the other way, right? That's just kind of how you naturally are, because most people are looking to pitch you away anyways, so on and so forth. But in this point here, Irwin pitches the ball on middle half out, right? So it was not middle, but it was a little bit to the right, kind of middle. When you draw the box there, and he's over here, the ball was kind of like right over here, and it was a no-doubter. And in that point, I know that Irwin's a left-handed at bat, but that's something that is something that has to be discussed prior to either with Jackson Smith or with Tom Thornton, whoever's calling the pitches. I don't know if he just straight up missed the pitch or whatever the case may be, but that has to be the game plan. All right, this guy has hit you very hard going to the right side. Let's try and get the balls in. Right? He's hitting the ball hard. It's not like he's getting weak contact where you can kind of play a little bit. No, he's hitting the ball hard. And that's what led to this grand slam. Ultimately, this was probably the dagger, realistically, to the RailCats. I know they came back and they scored 5, but that was, they kind of brought it within, and it just kind of fell apart after that. But I just don't think the RailCats were sufficing enough to battle back in the situation. That was a kind of a gut punch to the RailCats in that situation. After the grand slam, Contreras, he hit a single, then Bennett walked, and then Noriega hit a ball to shortstop. They tried to turn double play, didn't work out. It was just a 6-4 fielder's choice. Then Snyder grounded out to Woodworth. Going into the 5th inning, where the RailCats actually did get down on the board. So let's go ahead and set the stage for you. Castillo hits a double. Abbott walks. Smith pops out to short. Scantlin strikes out. And then Lingua hits a single, which brought in Castillo. And then Woodworth hit another single, which brought in Abbott, bringing the 2 runs. And then Walraven lined out to third base. And it was a very hard. I thought this was a little bit of a spark that was coming along with this RailCats, because they were starting to really get a hold of McRae. And I thought maybe some kind of rally was going to start here on this point of it, because the game really wasn't out of hand. I mean, it was sort of out of hand. I mean, they were up 7, but you're starting to kind of claw back. You kind of felt the momentum kind of coming back a little bit. But then there in the 5th, Jimenez grounds out to Lingua. Carranza hits a single, and then Dystra hits a double, which brought in Carranza. And then Schaefer, and then this was another error that I don't think Nova should. It was a kind of soft play hit to him, and you overthrew him. Schaefer gets on with an error, and then Yo strikes out. And then Contreras flies out to left. And then going here into the 6th, where the RailCats actually scored 3. It started off with a Mariaga hit to their third baseman who caused an error. Nova popped out to second. Castillo hits a single, which brought in Mariaga for an RBI. And then Sam Abbott hit his 15th home run of the year, pushing that single season record a little bit higher up. And also with the RailCats single season record as a full team, and then Abbott as an individual player. 2-run shot to dead center. That was a no-doubter. Beautiful hit. That's what Sam Abbott's there for. He is your left-handed bat that's going to give you the power when you need it. Not all the time does it happen, but majority of the time that when you actually need it, he does come through on that aspect of it. And then Jackson Smith hits a single. Scatlin flies out to right, and then Linguoff flies out to right. That was the end of the RailCats scoring. The rest of the night, it was kind of sad. They went 1, 2, 3, got a couple hits there, and then maybe 2, 3 hits after that. Nothing special. Then the DockHounds absolutely unloaded. Here in the 7th inning, they did bat around. So it did start with Jimenez. He singled. Carranza got hit by a pitch. Dijkstra got hit by a pitch. And then Schaefer hit a 2-run double. And then Yo came up and hit a 3-run bomb. After, scoring 7 runs, he scored half of the DockHounds. He would have beaten the RailCats alone just on his scores. Contreras struck out. Bennett struck out. Noriega got a single. Snyder hit an RBI. And then Jimenez struck out. And then that was it for the end of the scoring for the entire night for both teams on that aspect of it. Looking at the pitching line here, Chris Irwin gets the loss. And he was having a pretty good season up to this point. He pitched 3 1/3 innings, giving up 7 hits, 7 runs, 7 all earned, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Nick Garcia came in. He pitched 2 2/3 innings, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, which was earned, and 1 strikeout. Then Jack Eisenbarger came in, and he kind of didn't have his best stuff. He pitched 2/3 innings, gave up 3 hits, 5 runs. He hit 2 batters, which were all earned, and 2 strikeouts. Jalen Smith came in. He pitched 1 1/3 inning. He gave up 4 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, or one run, which was earned, and then 2 strikeouts. And then looking at the Lake Country DockHounds pitching line, McRae went 6 innings, gave up 8 hits, 5 runs, 4 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Orzik came in for 1 inning and got 3 strikeouts. He actually, I believe he came from the Mariners organization. He recently was signed, and he came via the Rookie Complex League in Arizona there. He looked really good. Gonzalez came in. He gave up 1 hit, 1 strikeout, and 1 inning pitch, and Watson came in to finish the game. Gave up 1 hit and 1 strikeout and 1 inning pitch. And then looking at the RailCats here on their batting line, Linguois went 2 for 5 with 1 RBI. Woodworth went 1 for 5 with an RBI and 1 strikeout. Walraven went 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Mariaga had 1 hit on 4 attempts, 1 run, 2 strikeouts. Nova went 1 for 4. Castillo went 2 for 4, 2 runs, 1 RBI. Abbott went 1 for 3, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Jackson Smith went 1 for 4. Nate Scatlin went 0 for 3, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. The RailCats had 10 hits in total, scoring 5 runs, walking twice, and having 9 strikeouts. The Lake Country DockHounds, Yo went 2 for 6, 2 runs, 7 RBIs, 1 strikeout. Contreras went 1 for 6, 1 strikeout. Bennett went 1 for 4, 1 run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Noriega went 2 for 5, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. Snyder went 1 for 5 with 1 RBI and 2 strikeouts. Jimenez went 2 for 5, 1 run, 1 strikeout. Carranza, he went 3 for 4, 4 runs, and that's it. Dykstra went 1 for 2, 2 runs, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Schaefer went 3 for 4, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, and 1 walk and no strikeouts. So yeah, with this is probably the series that the RailCats probably needed to sweep and win. On that, I know it's still early, and I mean they're on a 4-game losing streak now. We can't let that get any deeper. When we look at the standings at this point, when it loads up for me, it takes a minute for it to load right now. I don't know why it's taking forever to load. But I mean, just overall, it's kind of a disappointment to watch the RailCats kind of falter after having a magical run, beating the crap out of the Dogs, beating the crap out of the Lincoln Salt Dogs, blowing a game against the Milkmen. I don't know if blowing that game against the Milkmen kind of hurt them, or they're just, the other teams are more hungry than they are. I think that the RailCats ran into a time where they were more hungry than the other teams, and now these other teams are more hungry. And, to look at this realistically, the DockHounds right now are 6 games back from the RailCats. That pushes them to 8.5 back from Cleburne, which they ended up beating King County 4-0 tonight. So that pushed the RailCats 2.5 games back. So like there's this hill they got to climb, and it's going to be very hard. I think Cleburne can potentially pull it out. I mean, they got the easier schedule, and right now the RailCats are just they're at the surface, but they can't get their head above water. And I don't want this to knock them down, because they do have potential to catch fire. And this has been a streaky team all year. This team has been through its ups and downs. The streak's more towards the bad side things, but then they get that, the 6-game win streak, and then they lose a handful. Like, it just, the streak just needs to, there needs to be the streak in this 15 game set coming up. I realistically, you want to see them win 10 out of 5. Realistically, that's what I want to see, is them win 10 games out of 5. That puts them at 46 and 54. Not quite at 500, but that's kind of where they want to be, and but it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult as Fargo Moorhead did clinch a playoff berth. So maybe they're not going to be playing their best ball. But I think they still should be, because I think once it loads up here, I'm not sure how far Kansas City is behind them. I don't think it's a big of a cushion, too big of a cushion at least for the Red Hawks. So I would still see them playing good game. I guess Kansas City is about 3.5 games back on that aspect of it. But that's just something that the RailCats are going to have to fight through. It's going to depend on who's more hungry than the other team, who's going to be more gritty than the other team. The luck can only run so far. This is the time where you just got to lock down and make your own luck. You can't just rely on the other team to crap the bed, and you have to figure out a way to fight at bats, to make good pitches, how to play good defense, or we're just a average team that has a glimpse of hope. This is a ball club that's under 500, which most ball clubs basically are when you're in that position anyways. There's still 15 games left. There's still plenty of time. These next 5 games are very crucial. I think you start hitting the panic button at the 10-game mark if you're not any closer to something need to be changed, or you just kind of wrap it up for the rest of the season. Gonna try to take positives from the game. Sam Abbott's home run, I think he has been a very good power bat for the RailCats. I think they've done a pretty good job at first base, maybe outside of Chris Burgess. I mean, but he was still getting a chance, and he was still hitting some decent home runs. But Graves has been a good first baseman, I think, for the RailCats. He's been coming in clutch, but Sam Abbott's been hitting the home runs like you want. So there's a lot of potential for the RailCats. I just think that it all needs to kind of click together. And I think if they had the lineup they did at the beginning of the year, I think we'd be talking about a little different RailCats team. Just because I think the pitching held up the deep or the offense so much that now that's getting later in the warmer season and balls are going out the park more. You're not saying that the RailCats offense would have been any better in the beginning, but I still think they would have been a little bit more consistent. I mean, the biggest thing is that they've been terrible at home, and that's where you want to win is at home because it's your home ballpark. You practice there, I guess I know it's not the same as a major league, player going to the home rink or whatever the case may be. Their homes there because some of these players are with host teams and they're not our host families. So in the off season, they're not always there. That's beside the point. You're here, it's just in layman's terms of everything. You play at home, you win at home. It's simple as that. Like I said, all in all, I'm not really disappointed in the season. It just does it suck talking about losses more than wins, yes, but that's sometimes just a part of it. There's a culture that is being changed with the RailCats, and that doesn't factor away of actually going to a ball game because if if you're listening to this, hopefully if you've listened to this, you've gone to multiple RailCats games, but if not, you definitely should get out to the ballpark. It's still a fun environment to be in. Just the reality of how close you can actually be to the teams and the conversations you might potentially can have. Just seeing seeing the excitement on the kids' faces, the kids running around, different people that are excited. You get that, the diehard RailCats fans that you see at every game be there, so on and so forth. Good food, cheap beer, cheap seats, free parking, and there's nothing wrong with being a little bit low end on the cheap side. It's not really cheap; it's just low end prices, and that's fine. I think I would rather realistically take my family to a RailCats game or American Association game than to a White Sox or Cubs game because you just know you're just going to get you're going to get all your money taken away from you basically at that point because tomorrow my fiance is a big WNBA fan. The Sky are playing the New York Liberty playoff game. Tickets were $19, right? $19 for the two of us to each, right? So typically, after taxes and so on, you're thinking maybe like $50 or something along the lines of that. $70, but all the fees they put on there, like this is the stuff you just don't get at these kind of events. I would rather go to these kind of events, not spend the money and go multiple times than make it to another game where you kind of have to worry about how much money you're spending on that aspect of things. I say that, and I'll go to every Blackhawks game I could possibly go to, but that's a little bit different. Yeah, just a little bit different. But I'm still not disappointed with the team, even if they don't make the playoffs. I will be disappointed if the team falls to last place. That's where I'll be disappointed because the bar was set low last year, and it can't go any lower than being in last place last year. So, you're just sitting there and the bar hasn't raised. You haven't changed anything via wins and losses and stuff like that. Now, there has been changes, and I think there's been changes for the good. And I think that they have a good base around it. They just need to add the key essentials. I think they need a little bit more veteran presence. I think they need players that have been more consistent and can be consistent in more of the bullpen role, maybe starting pitching, something along the lines of that. I think they need more consistency in that level. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for me for this post-game kind of podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below on the YouTube channel. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I do most of my posting on Facebook. just because it's generally kind of where my fan base is kind of leaned towards a little bit on that aspect of it. So if you comment down below, I'll probably answer any, if it's on via Facebook, Twitter, whatever the case may be, on the comments here. Feedback's always greatly appreciated. If you want something different, need to see something different. Like I said, I'm trying to get more consistent schedule going. It may not be fully this year, maybe next year. I'll be a little bit better off with getting podcasts out, stuff like that, going to a little bit more games, or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I'm your host, Kyle Savitic. I want you to enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, listening to it, whatever the case may be, and it's okay.